Ivy Gruber. Steve, you're the bomb. You're a star. Ivy, you're a bigger star. And thank you so much, you guys, for carrying us on your platform. We appreciate you very much. And we're going to continue to bring guests like we have today. The storyteller, Roland Lazenby, is with me. He wrote the definitive book on Earvin Johnson. I read the whole book. It is amazing. Here's a line from the paperwork that I got with the book. For the very first time, the Johnson family ancestry mapped from a North Carolina plantation to present day. That was really interesting as well. Okay, Roland, let's talk about this book. I mean, you told me it took you 5 years to get this project done. I can't even imagine working on it with that many pages of bibliography and all your sources. Let's start at the beginning. Why?
Well, I didn't plan on 5 years. Earvin Johnson has a very, very big, very, very complex, very, very amazing life. And there was so much. Oh, no one has ever gone in depth on the Lansing experience the way I did. The first half of the book is Lansing in so many ways. That is the amazing part of the Earvin Johnson story. And it's where we see who he is.
You know, the whole thing where and I'm telling you guys, having gone to school with Earvin at Everett High School for the 3 years that he was at Everett High School, knowing of him when he went to Dwight Rich Junior High and I went to Walter French with Jay Vincent and several other giant athletes, you captured the temperature of those times in the mid 70s, because we graduated in 1970. You really nailed it. I mean, I kept looking for I swear to God, I was looking for little holes in the book. I couldn't find any. The only one is what I told you about, and it was such a small hole. It's like, well, no one would know that. But yeah, I mean, all the documentation, the people you talk to, I want to get your impression on Dale Beard.
Oh, I just don't think that Earvin Johnson could have had a better person step in off that junior varsity and find his way into the rotation on that Everett team that ultimately won the state championship. I don't think, and I know Lansing has a lot of impressive sons. I don't think there are many, if any, more impressive as a human being than Dale. I think Dale Beard was fantastic in the interviews, and everywhere I've gone, I've run into his many admirers.
They're all solid. I mean, he is such a good guy. Another guy that you had a lot of depth with, of course, with his parents and Dr. Tucker. I mean, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with like these? I guess we could start with the Lansing stuff and George Fox. I mean, George Fox was the coach at Everett High School. He was a great teacher. He was a great coach. Start with his and his contribution to your book and what you felt, how he nurtured Earvin in those really turbulent times, because those absolutely were rough, racially diverse times.
Well, I did better than 50 interviews with George Fox. One of the really impressive things I've been able to do in my journalism career, because I really wanted to understand everything. George was in his 80s. Part of it was just going through the various things, just making sure memories were what they were, and that if there was a problem, George was going to say, I don't remember that too well. And to have Pat Holland, just a prince of a man, and I'm not just saying this. These guys are great. Pat Holland and Dale Beard have been close, but just getting everybody to give me everything they had. Dr. Charles Tucker, and I really wanted, it was almost like an archaeology project. I wanted to go over all the little shards of emotion, all the little pieces of details, because there was a lot of conflict in there. Lansing's no different than so many American communities. There's so much misunderstanding, and it is prevalent today. There's so much misunderstanding because of our racial history. But what I was amazed at early on, Lansing was this place that really wanted to empower Black males, and they did it in ways that were impressive for that era. They're impressive today.
I think that might have transferred over. I'm going to carry this through, Roland, because we're going to come up on break here. Let me reset this, everybody. The storyteller's with us. Roland Lazenby is our guest today, talking about his book, Magic. I do believe, and we can come back and talk about this when we come out of break, carry this thread through, that Michigan State with Duffy Doherty and the way he carried things through in the 60s really set the image for this mid-Michigan area. And a lot of people don't remember that. And we'll talk about that when we come back. Again, resetting this, the storyteller. Roland Lazenby's with me, talking about Earvin Johnson, his book, Magic. It's phenomenal. This is the Tom Mann Show.
When you got into the 50s and 60s, it was Penn State and Michigan State moving in and embracing, doesn't matter what your skin color was, they wanted the best athletes, the best people, and that was the way it proceeded. And so many good things that began to happen in those communities happened because of that.
And we are very grateful for that because it's made our society better. And so for you younger folks that are out there and you see all of the racial disparities that are going on, the polarization that's going on in our world today, you need to step back and you need to read a book like the Magic Book and see what was going on 40, 50 years ago. I mean, because I can't believe I'm saying this, if I'm dating myself, but that's a fact. And it's like, so don't think that this is a new occurrence. This has been going on for quite some time, and let's continue to make progress. Let's continue to support everyone, no matter what the skin color. Who cares? I mean, it makes no difference. It's like Dale Beard's been on my show several times. I know all those guys. We were all tight. If you were an athlete in high school, Roland, you know this because you're a college coach, a high school coach, you player. If you're an athlete, you got along. I mean, you got along. Now you talked about I was going to pivot into the family stuff with Earvin and his building that foundation of the Lansing part of the book with his mom and dad and his siblings. Let's talk first about his mom and dad and that strong, strong faith that Mrs. Johnson brought, Mr. Johnson brought. I mean, but it was an interesting thing. Can you talk about that, please? And it worked out. And Mr. Johnson, Earvin Johnson Sr., who was a hard-working guy, you know, working at over at Fisher Body and then doing his side businesses, and Earvin doing the side businesses with them. They worked so hard, and they were just so. I mean, their faith, Mrs. Johnson's faith, and you know the thing I didn't realize. Roland Lazenby is our guest today, everybody, author of Magic, calling this one the storyteller. I didn't realize that when Mrs. Johnson had changed her religious beliefs that she couldn't go to games on Saturdays. She just that was her faith day and she stuck by that, right? I mean, that was interesting.
Oh, she is a person of deep, deep faith. And that was one of the things I wanted to trace. I wanted to trace that missionary Baptist faith all the way back through her family into North Carolina. I was able to do that. And so, because it was important, it resided in the hearts of the women of her family, the Porters. And it was an amazing thing. And her decision to switch to Seventh day Adventist was no small thing. It created chaos.